I started meditation practice only 2 months ago, so I'm a beginner in this stuff that I'm talking about today, but I found it very interesting, and my talk is more about sharing ideas and what I have learned in these 2 months, basically, and rather than giving you knowledge about things that I know better, which I don't. So I would like to start with this quote. The miracle is not to walk on water. The miracle is to walk on the green earth, dwelling deeply in the present moment and feeling truly alive. So what do I mean by spiritual practice? Basically, like the word spirituality, when we encounter what comes to my mind is basically mumbo jumbo or things that do not really make sense. A lot of religious stuff, a lot of nonsense, basically. So by spiritual practice, I have a very restrictive meaning that I want to talk about today, and that is just basically sitting on a chair or in a comfortable position, upright, closing your eyes and focusing on your breath. And once you get distracted, you pay attention to it, get back to your breath. So there is no irrational thing about it. You do not presuppose anything. You do not believe in any higher being or supernatural. So it's just a simple practice of doing nothing. And what I want to talk about today is that actually doing nothing can be basically the best how you can spend your time in terms of how fulfilling it can be to you. So the claim is that we can realize something about the nature of consciousness in this present moment that will improve our lives. That is the claim that I hope that I can communicate my reasons for today. And also, nothing needs to be believed without sufficient evidence. So I try to base all of my ideas based on evidence and studies. And also, ultimately, this practice, from what I understand, leads to rejecting the idea of duality of matter and spirit. So, in this sense, the title of my talk could be as well scientific materialism. So maybe next slides can explain better what I mean by this. So a lot of us have actually may have had may think that extraordinary experiences can exist, although it is very important to be specific what we mean by extraordinary. So and this is very common. We encounter claims of extraordinary experiences every day. So how should a person like me, I know myself as an atheist, I don't believe in any higher beings. What is the true? How should we treat those claims? I think it is very natural because we all hear all these religious nonsense all the time. We have this tendency to deny the existence of extraordinary experiences once we hear them. That quote, I like it. It says from Sam Harris, The End of Faith. It says, "There is clearly no greater obstacle to a truly empirical approach to spiritual experience than our current beliefs about God. So I want to argue that a scientific approach to extraordinary experience is not to deny it, but to examine it. And fortunately, with the progress in science these years, we can actually have scientific experiments on mind and on brain to understand, to actually examine extraordinary experiences. One other thing that makes it difficult for a skeptic person or a non-believer to really explore the idea of extraordinary experiences is that there are many people who actually abuse the idea. People like Deepak Chopra on left, who is basically a charlatan and publishes books like quantum healing and like makes money out of this stuff. On the other hand, there are people like Matthew Ricard on the right, who is willing to participate in scientific experiments and let people take fMRI images of his brain or electroencephalogram signals, electrodes on his brain, so they can record how happy he is. So, what do we need in order to be happy? We need good food, we need good shelter, good clothing, good company, a work that we enjoy, time for leisure, and you can just add to this. And once we have all this, we want better food, we want better shelter, we want better clothing, better company, or better work, or more time for leisure. It just never ends. So the question is, what about those Indian yogis like the one in this picture? Are these unhappy people? A lot of them claim that they are perfectly happy. So should we reject the idea, or should we examine and compare them to people who have good food, shelter, clothing, or company? So the idea here is to, in order to be happy, become happy, instead of gaining happiness from external sources, going directly to the brain. Because our moment-by-moment experiences are nothing but our brain interpretations of the world. We have 6 senses and we have thinking mind. So whatever happens, like all of our experiences is basically created by our own mind, our own brain. And if you think of neurons in your brain as basic processing elements in your brain, more than 99% of the connections between neurons are internal, between the neurons. And just a small percentage of it is from the outside world. So the question is, can we change our experience without changing the inputs from the outside world? Or in other words, does happiness come from within? This idea is more supported by the recent discoveries in neurology, which is called neuroplasticity. Actually, the discoverer, I don't remember the name, but he got the Nobel Prize for this discovery. The definition is brain changes that occur in response to experiences. And there are many different mechanisms of neuroplasticity, ranging from the growth of new connections or to the creation of new neurons. And mental training of meditation, this is again a claim that I'll show studies that will support it. Mental training of meditation is fundamentally no different than other forms of skill acquisition that can induce plastic changes in the brain. A good tennis player, when he practices tennis a lot, certain things will change in his brain. So meditation can actually be seen as one of as a skill that you can practice, and just because become happier. So happiness, like any other skill, requires practice and time. However, because we know that the brain is built to change in response to mental training, it is possible to train a mind to be happy. So this is one study that actually they have a group of people have gone into to an 8-week training, meditation training called meditation-based stress reduction that involves 1 hour of meditation every day for 8 weeks. And they measured the gray matter in their brains before and after. And they saw significant changes in the brain regions that are involved with learning and memory processes, emotion regulation, self-referential processing, and perspective taking. And these are published in reliable journals. Yes. The other one is an example of I show you a plot of how rumination has decreased in the depressed patients, and that has actually a linear relationship with the time they spent meditating.
What is MBSR relation?
Meditation-based stress reduction technique. This is what I like, that 8-week standardized meditation training. So this is again, this less rumination improves the lives of depressed patients. So this actually kind of is aligned with what I claimed first. We can improve our lives by going directly to our brain or by doing nothing. And these are another graph of Beck anxiety ratings before treatments, and this is decreased during the treatment and has remained. And later studies showed that even after 3 years of those trainings, people were less anxious, and this kind of again confirms that certain changes has occurred in their brain. Another interesting study is prefrontal cortex brain asymmetry. It has been shown that more activities in the left frontal lobe are associated with positive emotions, approach behavior, behavioral activation, hyperactive in depression, and all the bad things are associated with the right frontal lobe. So basically, by measuring how active people are in their brain in these two certain regions, it can be a quantified measure of how fulfilled or happy they are. So they did a study on around 200 students, and also on Matthew, the guy I showed you in the first slides. So the ratio between left and right prefrontal cortex activation basically constitutes a Gaussian curve, like a lot of other physical phenomena. And For Matthew, it was 8 standard deviation to the left, which doesn't really make sense. Like in statistics, it almost is 0. So there is something really different in his brain. And this study has been reproduced over and over again with many different Buddhist monks, basically, that collaborate with Mind and Life Institute in the US. They come. They are willing to go under functional MRI scans. They are willing to be like the signals be taken from their brain. So it's basically what I call like a spiritual person who doesn't resist to science or experiment. And for Matthew, like he was so much happier than other people because he had spent like around 50,000 hours of meditation. But last graph shows that even like short term, like 8 weeks, like MBSR, meditation-based stress reduction treatments, they can also make the left part of the brain more active. So even short terms have benefits too. And the research about this has basically just started around 10 years ago. Before that, it wasn't being taken seriously in scientific community, but it has been just exploding so far. And these are just a graph I extracted from a paper in IEEE Signal Processing magazine. I have still not been able to publish anything there, but like, I hope in future I can. But there are also all sorts of measurements in the brain, basically, and all sorts of research on this. And like again, like it has been reproduced. It has produced consistent results so far. And now I can answer all your questions. Okay, yeah, he was in the back.
So, if you will, could you walk us through what a meditative experience might be like for you as a relative beginner? Like, what do you think about? How do you get yourself to relax? And what's going through your mind, if anything, while you're under? If you're
Yeah, for me, like I every morning I just sit, relax, and try to focus on my breath. That's all. Like, and this is even like a lot of people do it like for 50 years and nothing else. Like, and the thing is, the whole point is about that you will get distracted, and what is interesting about it is that you'll notice first how extremely difficult it is to focus on your breath, which looks like the most simple thing, but you'll realize how busy your mind is, basically, and you understand like what is the source of your like tension in everyday life, like, and then gradually you can, like, once you get distracted, you go back to your breath. It helps you to improve your focus. And from what they say, like, I haven't yet experienced, but it basically they claim that gradually this will improve your ability to focus in other things as well, not only your breath. Yes, right.
Yeah. Further to that, if you're focusing on meditative experience and you're trying to think of your breath, is that akin to doing a yoga or a kung fu or some kind of exercise where it's all you think about is that motion and that exercise? Yeah. You're still focusing your thoughts.
Yes, that's exactly like the breath is. The point is about focus, not breath. There's nothing special in breath, but breath is kind of very common because it's available everywhere.
But whether you're relaxed or or under physical stress is my point. If you're still focused on that activity. Right?
Yes, there are many different sorts of meditation, Zen meditation, or like all of them work.
Vipassana, right?
Yes, Vipassana. Vipassana. This is like the practice. Yeah.
You showed so the Gaussian, the regular distribution of left and right brain activity, and you stated that the left brain activity was correlated with more left prefrontal cortex, I think it was correlated with more positive experiences internally and right negative. Did they? How did they determine that? Is it self-report, I guess, where people say, yes, I'm more happy when there's more...
I don't know about that, basically, but I have seen it many times, but about like how you actually correlate it with, I don't think there is... I don't really know.
Did they measure the frequency response and amplitude on that curve, on that Gaussian?
Yes, but the thing is, how do you associate, like his question is, how do you associate it with being more happy? Like, how do you know left frontal cortex is associated with being more happy?
Let's take a look and see if the person's smiling.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not a psychologist by any means, but from what I understand, there have been some fMRI studies or functional magnetic resonance imaging studies that see more activity when a person is conjuring up negative images or viewing negative images or...
okay, so it's induced then rather than...
I think so.
Okay.
That's my understanding. Now, there could be flaws in the experimental methodology, of course, but I would think that's probably right.
Characteristic patterns, I guess.
Okay.
I just want...
She has a question. Sorry.
So did you go through the formal MBSR training?
No.
No, you didn't.
No.
So you just...
But I have registered for the next one in Winnipeg.
October?
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. See you there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
There was one graph that you showed that that was the linear fit. I was just wondering if perhaps you have some information about like the goodness of the fit. Like there's some statistical.
Like it has been. I can give you the reference of the paper, but even if it you can fit all sorts of.
That's why the goodness of fit is a good measure of how good
yes.
the line.
I'm sure that the number is in the paper, but I can send it to you.
Brendan has a question.
Okay.
So when you meditate, are you just like in a quiet room, or do you have white noise, or like music?
Quiet room.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So, yes.
In your research for the presentation, did you find any comparisons between MBSR and other plasticity exercises or pharmacological approaches to dealing with unhappiness and
They like MBSR things. They do not claim. They basically say that for people who are experiencing extreme depression, they do not really recommend it. They recommend going to regular, but pharmaceutical treatments. Yes.
Actually, I have a comment that's a little bit further to that. As someone who has been able to work with what I have found is the kind of techniques that we're discussing are something that definitely comes into play, especially when we're talking about cognitive behavioral therapy, because it looks at fundamentally changing the interpretation between stimulus and response. And it gets into neuroplasticity and everything we were discussing here. It actually does tie in with the kind of techniques in slightly differently in CBT. They talk about things like appreciating where it doesn't always have to be taking yourself out of a moment to focus on your breath or to slow time. Sometimes it's taking yourself going into a moment. It can be a moment in time that really flows and smells so good and it feels good on your skin and you just are in that moment. And the kind of things that you're talking about where you are able to consistently feel happier. I mean, I'm a success story for that. And the kind of things that you're talking about are something you reach after, as you say, with practice, you have to become, you really have to sort of fix parts of your cognition that are malfunctioning before you're really able to really give yourself a work. I found you kind of reach what I'm talking about, but then once you do, your life is never going to be the same. You always, as you say, practice build and feel and so are moments of stillness and those are and I appreciate those moments, being really present, just generally stopping the interpretive chatter and sort of evaluation and devaluation of events, saying that they're the truth.
Okay, go ahead. You. No, yeah, that's it. Yes, go ahead.
Have they ever, like you said, they associated the left brain with more positive than the right brain? Have they associated certain areas of the brain with over-optimism?
I guess optimism, I don't think optimism or happiness mean the same thing. I don't know that.
Are you happier now?
Happier? I guess.
Put some qualitative,
yes.
even if it's subjective, put some facets around it so we understand.
I can't let one thing that as a non-believer I really try to avoid, and this is one of the traps you could fall into, is that it's all personal experience, and it shouldn't be generalized. Once people try to generalize it, it becomes religion, Or so it's just you should try and see if you get happy or not. Okay.
I'm just wondering if there's any difference to basically just getting a good night's sleep. You're sitting there, quiet, eyes closed, breathing. It's essentially
This is exactly.
state.
This is a very good question, and almost all of the studies that I have shown you, they compare it to sleep, and it is significantly different in the meditative state than while you're sleeping. So this is something quite different.
And obviously the variables aren't logged, like what type of chair you're sitting in. If you're sitting on a chair of maybe nails, it might be but still meditating. I mean, people do this, right? So, but maybe your bed's not quite good, and so you're sleeping incorrectly, or you have sleep apnea, or do they log these variables in these studies? Do you know?
I haven't seen any study that studies people on nails, sitting on nails. That was a joke. But with they do all these. They take these things into account, and all the papers I showed, the last one is submitted to Science. I don't know if it has been accepted still, but they are not mumbo jumbo like this is what.
No, curious.
And they take these they're scientific papers.
Yeah, I haven't read.
It seems to me that the focus in the sleep is not there, right? You're in a subconscious state, and you may or may not be focused on something.
Yes. It is. You may be relaxed, but it's different.
You're not training yourself.
Yes.
For sleep.
Okay.
And even in meditation, you may not be relaxed. Ultimately, it's about noticing the present moment, non-judgmentally, and whatever sort of happens, happens. So you're not really setting out with an agenda. It's just being, just noticing.
Exactly. Thank you.
As a materialist, I certainly have a bias that I can feel right away, even from the word spiritual. Is there? Do you think that there's that it's harmful or beneficial to use that word when it seems like you're using it in a materialist sense?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
In Sam Harris, The End of Faith book, last chapter, I think it talks about maybe 20 pages only about this topic, what is the better word, or is there a better word for this experience? And this is, I don't know, it can be very misleading, For me, it was I always thought that it's stupid, you know. But yeah, I don't like they use the word mindfulness recently more, so maybe that's better. Yeah.
You actually have creationists and so forth that use spiritual, and they use weaknesses or lack of knowledge in certain areas like quantum mechanics or origins of the universe, and they bring the two together and then make a science out of it.
Yeah. Any other question? Okay.
We're out of time.